Starting off the list at number 10 is Monique. It has been a year since the actress rocked the industry by going head to head with Netflix, saying that she didn't get paid what other comedians did for her comedy special. Things went as far as Monique demanded a boycott against Netflix and turned down the $500,000 they offered her for the special. I'll take that $500,000. Amy Schumer got $13 million for hers, to put it into some perspective for you. So I guess, yes, that is a big difference. Long story short, she caused a huge controversy saying that she didn't get paid as much because she was black. She then went on to insult about 80% of fellow entertainers in the industry who weren't supportive of her claims. And that is when the queen of daytime TV stepped in, Oprah. The two of them were once like family, pretty much best friends, but had an issue back in 2009 after Oprah brought Mo's family on her show without her consent. She ended up bringing her mom and her brother, who Monique has openly accused of sexually assaulting her, so obviously there was a lot of beef there. They were able to work things out, but when it came to these more recent scandals with Netflix and the rest of Hollywood, Oprah called Monique negative during an interview, and she clapped back at Oprah, calling her a coward. We haven't heard much from her ever since, and she hasn't acted in anything since 2016. So girl, where are you at? Where are you hiding? Next up at number 9 is Jared Fogle. If you don't recognize him by just his name, he was that guy that was pretty much in every Subway commercial. He was literally the pitch man for the entire company, like that was his actual job. He got the sweet gig after losing a significant amount of weight with the help of Subway sandwiches. His weight loss story led him to being the spokesperson for all of their advertising campaigns from the years 2000 all the way until 2015. We saw his face everywhere, but then all of a sudden that quickly changed and he basically went into hiding. But once we found out why, it made sense. Some people might have noticed that he was no longer the face of Subway and questioned why, until headlines came out saying that he was charged for child pornography and paying for sex with minors. He pleaded guilty to his charges and was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. His attorneys argued that he should only have a 5-year sentence since the girls he had sex with were 16 and 17 years old, not young children. That did not work in his favor. Jared agreed to pay a total of $1.4 million in restitution to 14 different victims, and on top of that, the judge fined him $175,000. Since then, his disappearance is no longer a mystery, and he is now behind bars. Coming in at number 8 is Stacey Dash. You probably know her as the actress from the iconic movie Clueless. She was blacklisted a few years ago after her political views cost her her entire career. She's a conservative who was clever enough to write a book on her blacklisting experience and called it "There Goes My Social Life From Clueless to Conservative." It all happened by one simple tweet. During the Barack Obama election, she tweeted out, "Vote for Romney, the only hope for your future." She said she tweeted it out because she didn't want Obama to have another 4 years, they were her beliefs, and she was sticking by them. But when she woke up the next day, everything was different. She spoke about it during an interview in 2016 and said, "I've been blacklisted, my agents have dropped me, I haven't auditioned in over a year because my beliefs and what I stand for." After that, she disappeared from Hollywood basically. We stopped hearing about her, but the mystery of her disappearance ended just 2 days ago. She was back in the headlines, but this time it was because of her mugshot. Turns out she was arrested for domestic battery after an incident with a male. So things are not looking too good for her. And at number 6 is Roseanne Barr. The actress once had her own ABC show titled after her, Roseanne, which is why it is such a shame that she lost it all by another single tweet. People are losing their careers over Twitter. Maybe it is time to delete your account. Besides her work, she's also known for being a Trump supporter, which of course has caused her some controversy. However, it was a specific tweet back in May 2018 that had her career spiral out of control. Her tweets were about Valerie Jarrett, a senior advisor to the former President Barack Obama. In her tweet, she compared Valerie to the cross between the Muslim Brotherhood and the movie Planet of the Apes. ABC canceled her show immediately, which was supposed to reboot the same day, coincidentally. As of January of this year, her Twitter was off limits and she moved into her mother's basement in order to get out of LA. She said that she was worried that everyone hated her and just wanted to avoid the public eye. We haven't heard or seen much from her, but the paparazzi is still trying. A more recent image surfaced a few months ago of Roseanne looking all disheveled outside of her home in Salt Lake City, Utah. Apparently she was trying to take a picture of the paparazzi's license plate. She looks like a damn hot mess. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Brendan Fraser. 10 years ago he was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but then he suddenly disappeared. For 90s babies like me, you would know him from the Mummy franchise, George of the Jungle, and the Looney Tunes. After 2008, he disappeared from starring in big movie roles and people started saying it was due to a drug addiction. But but he finally came out with the truth years later, admitting that it had to do with an incident of sexual assault. He claimed that he was once physically groped by Philip Burke, a former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Burke called the allegation a, I quote, total fabrication, but still sent Brendan an apology letter after the actor complained to the HFPA. Since coming out with his story, he has slowly been returning to some acting roles, but for the most part, he just lays low at his home in New York. He actually bought a big house that overlooks a farm and has spent the last year going back and forth between home and Toronto. He loves spending time with his horses and relaxing down his little dirt road. Definitely a big step back from the Hollywood lifestyle. Here we are, number 4, with Paula Deen. For years you would have seen her face plastered all over the Food Network. This was until a lawsuit was filed against her by Lisa Jackson, accusing the celebrity chef of racial discrimination. Lisa is Paula's former general manager at one of her restaurants, so they were once very close. She claims that Paula was using the N-word when talking about African Americans. She was asked during an interview if she has ever used this word, and her response was, yes, of course, it's just what they are, they're jokes. Most jokes are about Jewish people, rednecks, black folks. I can't determine what offends another person. After her statement, networks canceled her TV programs worldwide and stores even stopped selling her products. She disappeared from the public eye for a while, but was recognized once again after making insensitive comments about another Food Network star that passed away. Chef Carl Ruiz died at the age of 44, and many celebrity chefs posted beautiful tributes in his honor. However, while appearing on the Big J show, she was asked about his death, and her response was, I'm not familiar with him, but I'm sorry to hear that. You know, they say the restaurant business will kill you. No pun intended. She laughed it off, but no one was laughing with her, and just when you thought she might get off the blacklist, she done did it again. Dug herself a deeper hole. Taking the number 3 spot on our list is J.D. Salinger. Everyone who went through high school had to read the book The Catcher in the Rye, which was written by a famous author, J.D. Salinger. He sadly passed away in 2010 at the age of 91, but before that, his career took a turn and he went into hiding after being blacklisted, but we never even knew. In 2013, 2 authors named Shane Salerno and David Shields published a book called Salinger, which revealed the author's crazy life and uncovered some very heartbreaking stories. Turns out he actually never spoke about his time in the World War II, and he ended up checking himself into a mental institution after leaving to help him deal with what he had witnessed in the war. Once he left the institution, he actually went back into the army and participated in the denazification of Germany. But because of this, there were times that some of his books were turned down. Publishers turned him down because they thought that he was crazy. Shane Salerno said during an interview, being told that he was crazy was a great wound to him. In fact, he teared up in the room and was deeply, deeply hurt. They said that the effects of the war and being turned down as a writer sent him into this life of isolation. He disappeared from everyone and went on to live a very private life. Honestly, after hearing this story, I feel like I really underappreciated the whole Catcher in the Rye book. Like, I hated reading that. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I probably did those things where you googled the notes and it like sums it up for you. Taking second place on our list is Lalaine, the adored Disney star from the hit TV series Lizzie McGuire. Fans started questioning where she went when she didn't show up in the final episodes of the series, and when they didn't see her return for the Lizzie McGuire movie either. In the movie, they said her character was on a family vacation in Mexico, but the real reason she went missing is because she was actually arrested and pled guilty to the possession of crystal meth. Somehow she managed to keep it all hidden during the time that it was going on. It actually wasn't until she had a warrant out for her arrest that it made headlines. She was charged with a felony after not showing up for her court appearance. After her legal issues were all sorted out, she went on to work a regular job in LA where she said it just paid the bills. It was recently announced that Lizzie McGuire was coming back with a reboot, so fans are wondering if maybe she will be making a return. Is she going to be invited? Will she say yes? We're gonna have to wait and see. Taking our number 1 spot is Richard Simmons. The hilarious exercise guru taught his last exercise class in 2014, and we haven't seen him ever since. Like, literally, he walked out of the Beverly Hills studio and wasn't seen publicly for over 3 years. A podcast was created called Missing Richard Simmons, which claimed that he was being held hostage in his Hollywood Hills home by his housekeeper, or that he was possibly transitioning into a woman. Rumors started spreading, but his brother Lenny Simmons came forward with a statement saying, I quote, "He's not sick. These things about him transitioning into a woman are ridiculous. After 40 some odd years, he just decided that he wants to rest, he wants time to himself." The only reason he ever found himself blacklisted was because of his choice to leave and how he went about it, without any explanation at all. Fitness friend Billy Blank said in June 2019 that he thinks Richard will be making a comeback, but Richard's representative declined to comment on it. I mean, he's 70 years old now. Let the man rest. Starting off the list, number 10 is Jay Quan. He made a name for himself in the music industry after rapping about everybody in the club getting tipsy. You remember? Everybody in the club get tipsy. What's the next part? Something like that, right? I don't remember, something like that, but you guys remember that was his song. Anyways, his career was on the rise the same way his songs were on the charts, but then he disappeared from the music world and the public eye altogether. His own friend and manager, Dorian Washington, revealed in March 2010 that he kept trying to call and email him and hadn't seen him since August 2009. His label issued a statement asking fans to help locate the rapper. They even set up a special Twitter account called @WhereIsJaquan. After all the chaos, his manager finally wrote a statement saying, "I am very happy to let everyone know that I personally spoke with Jaquan today and he is okay. He was taking some time to himself as he sometimes does, not realizing that people would start to worry after a while." How could you not realize something like that? At least just tell your family. Coming in next at number 9 is Amanda Bynes. It is not a secret that she went off the handlebars back in 2012 with behavior that ended with her on Hollywood's blacklist. Just a few examples to refresh your memory. She was arrested for drunk driving, charged with a hit and run, locked herself in a West Hollywood dressing room for 2 hours, got thrown out of an Equinox after removing her shirt and exercising in a strapless push-up bra, and photographed multiple times smoking unknown substances in her car. These headlines kept her in the limelight for a while before she basically vanished. She was out of the public eye completely and people wondered what had happened to her. Turns out she ended up getting admitted into a mental institution where she worked on her sobriety and spent some years working out all of her legal issues. Fans were thrilled to see her make a return last year in 2018 with a magazine cover story saying that she is sober and ready to get back into acting. At number 8 is Dave Chappelle. Comedy fans saw him everywhere in the early 2000s when he was starring on his comedy show Chappelle's Show. The entire show was headlined by him and he had some other comedian guests to help him out. His series was successful, being nominated for an Emmy and catching the eyes of other rival networks. His representatives went to negotiate a contract for season 3 and later reported that Dave, I quote, signed a new development deal with Comedy Central that could have yielded him as much as $50 million. After that headline made news, he went missing. No one knew what happened to him or the show and how he could just walk away from a $50 million contract. Fans later learned that he was in South Africa attending a spiritual retreat. He continued to remain in hiding and focus on his personal life until he made a successful return back in 2016. Next up at number 7 is Fan Bingbing. She is one of China's highest paid stars and was in the Hollywood spotlight in 2014 after she starred in X-Men Days of Future Past. Her face was everywhere and she was walking every red carpet to promote the film, but before we knew it, the media was reporting that she suddenly disappeared. Rumors started and were later confirmed that she was busted for committing tax evasion. The Global Times revealed that Fan reported an income of $1.5 million in a small contract and $7.5 million in a larger contract, which was illegally filed as tax-free income. She was placed in secret detention, which explains why she mysteriously disappeared out of nowhere, but she was eventually released after her company agreed to pay $130 million back in taxes and fines. Once she emerged back in the spotlight, she issued an apology saying, "I am deeply ashamed and guilty about what I have done. My sincere apologies to you." Swiping the number 6 spot is Governor Mark Sanford. I feel like the governor counts as a celebrity. Right? I mean, like, he's really well known. Regardless, he's on this list, and back in 2009, he was the governor of South Carolina. People were completely thrown off when he suddenly disappeared for 6 days without telling anyone where he went. I feel like if you're a governor, you can't do that. After the first 6 days, he started telling people that he was going on a hike on the Appalachian Trail. However, he was really going to Argentina to visit his mistress, a woman named Maria Belen Chapur. Once the story surfaced, he admitted to his secret affair and returned to the US and asked for forgiveness. Well, he kinda begged for it. And for those wondering, after the disappearance mystery was solved, his marriage did fall apart. As it should. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Richard Stanley. Now this man isn't well known to some, but his story of disappearance is really interesting. If you've ever heard of the movie The Island of Dr. Moreau, he was the director and got himself fired just 3 days into production. According to the Telegraph, he was supposed to be escorted onto a flight from the set in Australia and fly back to Los Angeles, but when the plane arrived at LAX, he wasn't on it. Some of the extras from the movie ended up finding him a month later living in the jungle. Turns out he left the airport and made his way through the jungle by living off of coconuts, yams, and his personal marijuana stash. No, this is not a joke. What's even crazier is that he teamed up with the extras to create a plan to get back onto the movie set by dressing up as a mutant dog and blending in with the background actors. Like, what? I know this story doesn't sound real, you guys, but it is. I swear. Like, the source is down below. Here we are at number 4 with Randy Quaid. He was once an Academy Award nominee actor before he disappeared from the limelight. In 2010, his disappearance started making headlines, revealing that he and his wife, Evie Quaid, fled to Canada to try and make a deal with a group called Hollywood Star Whackers, who allegedly were out to kill them. But on their escape to Canada, they got involved in some illegal activities. They used fake credit cards to pay for hotel bills, and also lived in one of their former homes, which they no longer owned or had rights to. According to CNN, they were granted permission to stay in Canada in 2011. His wife was able to get her Canadian citizenship because her dad was born in Canada, but Randy's request was denied in 2013. The actor was finally detained by Canadian immigration officials in October 2015 and was set to be deported back to the US later that month. However, he and his wife were arrested for trying to sneak back into the US through Vermont. So it's basically just a big show. Everyone always runs off to Canada because we're so nice over here. We'll just let you come in. Alright guys, at number 3 is Margot Kidder. She was a huge star back in 1978 after starring as Lois Lane in the Superman movie, but a missing persons report was filed after she disappeared for 4 days back in April 1996. No one knew what was going on until police found her hiding out in the bushes of a suburban California home. Police say that she was, I quote, dirty, frightened, and paranoid with bruises and scratches all over her body. She ended up being taken to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. When she was discovered, it was reported that she'd actually cut off all of her own hair with a razor blade to try and alter her appearance so that people wouldn't recognize her. She later spoke on the incident, saying that she suffered from manic depression and spent years working on it. Sadly, she did pass away on May 2018 at 69 years old as a result of drug overdose. This one didn't have a happy ending. Taking our number 2 spot on our list is Casey Kasem. The legendary radio host of American Top 40 suddenly went missing, and his children reported it to the police, saying that they could not find him. It was then in May 2014 that the judge ordered that his whereabouts be disclosed. The order was made because his daughter Carrie was named his temporary conservator. She had expressed fear that he was taken by his wife Jean, who had an ongoing battle with the entire family. The radio host was suffering from Lewy body disease, and Carrie thought her mom took him out of the country or to an Indian reservation to seek treatment. A missing persons report was filed with the Santa Monica police, but he was reported to be found in the state of Washington not long after. Sadly, he died a month later at the age of 82, and his family drama continued on long after his death, still making headlines. At number 1 is D.B. Cooper. He only became famous for hijacking an aircraft in the Northwest United States back in 1971. TV show plots, songs, and books have all been based on the legend of this man for many years, including the movie Without a Paddle. The craziest part about the story is that he's actually an unidentified man. His real identity still remains a mystery to this day, so D.B. Cooper is just the name that he's been given. On Thanksgiving Eve back in 1971, he hijacked a plane saying he had explosives in his possession and demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes in addition to a truck when they landed at the airport. Authorities did pay out the ransom and gave him the parachutes. However, before they got to the airport, he jumped from the plane 10,000 feet near Mount St. Helens in Washington state. He was never found, and in July 2016, the FBI declared that they were no longer pursuing him. So basically, he could be out there walking the streets right now. He could be watching this. Hi, DB.
And at number 10, we have Nikkie De Jager. Nikkie De Jager, aka Nikkie Tutorials, famously appeared on The Ellen Show after her coming out video went viral on YouTube. But although she said it was an honor to be on The Ellen Show, Nikkie admitted later in a Dutch television interview the experience wasn't what she thought it would be. Sebastian Williams found that clip and translated it. And our girl Nikkie spilled some serious tea and really did not hold back. She called Ellen distant and cold, saying Ellen didn't even come and say hi before the show. Nikkie even said in another interview that Ellen did not let her use the bathroom. Apparently the Jonas Brothers were on the show the same day, and Ellen didn't have enough for everyone. And after exposing Ellen like that, obviously she will not be asked on the show again. And at number 9, Brad Garrett. The Everybody Loves Raymond star called out Ellen in a tweet in the midst of her scandal. He wrote on Twitter that her behavior was not a shock to him, or anyone else in the industry for that matter. He replied to a tweet about the Ellen scandal and added, quote, "Sorry, but it comes from the top at the Ellen Show. No more than one who were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge." Degeneres sends emotional apology to Staff Variety. Garrett had appeared on the show multiple times before he made his statements, so we know whatever you heard was definitely true. However, since he was one of the few celebrities that publicly called out Ellen, I would assume that he will not be asked back, but considering his statements, it seems like he probably didn't want to be anyway. And at number 8, Caitlyn Jenner. If you watched the last interview Ellen did with Caitlyn shortly after her transition, you definitely know why Ellen will not be having her back on the show. And apparently Ellen actually told Caitlyn that she was blacklisted. In her memoir, The Secrets of My Life, Caitlyn took the time to call out Ellen specifically for, quote, alienating her from the LGBTQ community by not allowing Caitlyn to come on her show. But it seems Caitlyn alienated herself from the community after a 2015 Ellen interview. In that interview, Ellen asked about Caitlyn's stance on gay marriage. She replied, quote, I have to admit that I remember 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whenever it was that whole gay marriage issue came up, I was not for it. But Caitlyn added later, quote, if that word marriage is important to you, I can go with it. But Caitlyn still seemed apprehensive in her support of same-sex marriage and was pressed by Ellen on the issue. And at number 7, Lea Thompson. Lea Thompson, best known for her roles in the Back to the Future franchise, publicly agreed with Brad Garrett's sentiments on Ellen. On July 31st, after Garrett had made his statements against Ellen, People magazine wrote an article about it. Thompson then replied to a tweet about that article and simply added on, quote, true story, it is. And this tweet is actually still up, and the replies are all agreeing that Ellen is definitely not what she seems, with many saying they always felt Ellen was two-faced. And at number 6, Sherri Shepherd. The former The View panelist is allegedly blacklisted from Ellen's show because of comments she made on The View that were against same-sex marriage. A source close to the situation said, quote, when Sherri was on The View, she used to get booked on the Ellen show all the time. After she came out on The View taking a stance against gay marriage, the Ellen show refused to book Sherri. Adding a reason was never given, but it was easy to put it together. The source added that Ellen is a hypocrite. Quote, she said she can be friends with people who have different views from hers, yet she won't give those people her platform and block them from appearing on her show. Halfway number 5, Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn was allegedly banned from being on the show for a short time, but they were able to work out their issues, and Vince is now on the show from time to time. The blacklisting took place after Vaughn made a joke about being gay in the trailer of the 2011 film, The Dilemma. Ellen refused to have Vaughn on the show after Anderson Cooper came on and expressed his anger towards that joke. However, everyone was able to make amends later on. But some people think it's not true that he was ever actually banned, that he simply just had no movies to promote during that time. I'll let you guys be the judge. And at number 4, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin has beef with a lot of people, and unsurprisingly, Ellen is one of them. Sources say that Ellen didn't allow Katie to come on the show because of their feud. According to Griffin, it all started when Ellen opened her show with a monologue about how, quote, mean Griffin could be. Apparently Griffin heard it from her dressing room and said, quote, I was in the dressing room like, you're another woman comic, come on. Apparently they also butted heads over Joan Rivers. Kathy was a huge fan while Ellen was not. Griffin exposed later how she was banned from the show, but Ellen replied in W magazine saying, quote, she did a whole thing that I banned her from the show. I didn't ban her from the show because first you have to be on the show to be banned. Ouch. And at number 3, Kim Burnell. Gospel singer Kim Burnell was set to appear on the Ellen show with Pharrell to promote their collaboration. But Ellen banned her before that because she had made homophobic comments in the past. Ellen commented on the situation saying, quote, she made a statement she was doing a Facebook Live and she said some very not nice things about gay people. So I didn't feel that it was good of me to have her on the show to give her a platform after she was saying things about me. Pharrell commented that he disagreed with the statements Pharrell made, but said that we should all love each other regardless. Even adding that, quote, sometimes the divisive stuff works in life. And at number 2, Neil Breen. Neil Breen is an Australian radio host who has a popular radio show called 4BC Breakfast. And while the reports about Ellen were surfacing, he decided to speak about his experience with her. And spoiler alert, it was not good. He says he met Ellen in 2013 while he was a producer on the Australian Today show, as his team was doing a sit-down interview with her. Breen exposed that he received a very detailed set of rules on how to guide the interview and how to act around her. He said that her team basically took over the whole interview and controlled practically every aspect of it. Allegedly, one of her producers even said, quote, you don't talk to Ellen, you don't approach her, you don't look at her. He was never able to have an interaction with Ellen herself, but added, quote, the people who worked with Ellen walked on eggshells the whole time. And in at number 1, Dakota Johnson. I doubt that Dakota will actually be blacklisted from Ellen's show because Dakota is a successful actress that will need to promote her movies on the show. However, considering Ellen's spat with Dakota on her show is really what started Ellen's downfall in the first place, she will probably avoid it as long as possible. The spat between them, of course, was about Dakota's birthday party. Basically, Ellen called Dakota out for not inviting her to the party, but Dakota clapped back that she actually did invite Ellen. She later awkwardly called Tig Notaro her favorite comedian, which was kind of a dig to Ellen. And there's also this gem of a quote from the interview where Dakota flat out says, quote, "I didn't even know you liked me," to Ellen. Honestly, I still cannot watch this interview without cringing.
In at number 8, Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star has always been considered a bit of a controversial figure, but when he took over the world of cosmetics, the stakes were even higher. Although he has had plenty of feuds in the past, it was his beef with Laura Lee that became the most dramatic. To make matters worse for his career, Star wore cornrows on one of his Jeffree Star cosmetic campaigns, and the general public was less than amused. Not too long after that, fellow YouTuber Thomas Halbert made a video about racism in the beauty community and alluded to Star's involvement without mentioning his name directly. Jeffree then responded with text messages that he believed would clear his name, but in return Thomas exposed Star for blackmailing his friends, which just completely flipped the table and made it a whole new conversation about the kind of dirt that Jeffree might have on certain people. Apparently he had actually made a compilation video of YouTubers being problematic behind the scenes and would threaten to expose them if things didn't go his way. Well, now things are definitely not going his way and he's for sure ending up on Hollywood's blacklist. In at number 7, Ellen Degeneres. Ellen just recently has fired 3 of her most problematic producers that had allegations of abuse against them. However, I highly doubt that this action will end up redeeming her in any way whatsoever. Thanks to that Kevin Porter tweet, thousands upon thousands of people have come to the realization that Ellen certainly has a mean streak. Part of what keeps people working in Hollywood can largely be attributed to how easy they are to work with. Now with Ellen having this long rap sheet of complaints, it's hard to imagine that Hollywood won't keep her off their blacklist of celebrities. That being said, Hollywood's blacklist is more like a timeout until the bad press blows over, and then they usually try to bring these celebrities back into the fold again. I mean, look at how off the rails Mel Gibson went, and he's still acting here and there, right? Mel Gibson's still acting, right? He did some bad stuff. In at number 6, Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett used to be known as the musician Jamal Lyon on the Fox drama series called Empire. At the start of January, he had gone to the Chicago police to report that he had been assaulted in the early morning hours. He claimed that 2 white men wearing MAGA hats attacked him in the middle of a polar vortex, I should mention that, and uttered racial and homophobic slurs at him. He then claimed that they poured bleach on him and tied a rope around his neck. Although after the police investigated the case, they found that Jussie had actually paid 2 Nigerian American brothers who worked as extras on Empire to help him stage this attack. Near the end of February, he was indicted for disorderly conduct for allegedly paying those brothers to stage the fake hate crime and therefore filing a false police report as a result. This scandal, however, ruined his chances with acting. In June of 2019, it was announced that Smollett would not be returning to the show even after his charges were dropped. Well, they reached a deal with the prosecutors, I should say. He had to pay his $10,000 bond and just do some community service, but he's on that Hollywood blacklist for sure. In at number 5, Shane Dawson. I'm sorry for dragging these people through the mud repeatedly, like Shane Dawson is a perfect scenario for this, especially for this channel. We talk about Shane Dawson all the time, but if Shane doesn't fit this list, then I don't know who else does. Shane had quite the blow up recently that led to the demise of his career on YouTube and in the world of cosmetics and probably any potential for Hollywood. That door has been shut. After partnering up with Jeffree Star, who was just meant to be another one of his documentary vlogs, the two started causing trouble together. They manipulated Tati Westbrook into fighting with James Charles and then played the victim when people found out. Then on top of that, tons of Shane's older content had come back to bite him right when all of this beauty drama started. If you want to watch a full top 10 of everything that he did that led to the end of his career, definitely check out our list on the top 10 times Shane Dawson went too far. In number 2, Nick Cannon. After a recent episode of Nick Cannon's podcast called Cannon's Class, Viacom CBS decided to fire him after he promoted hateful speech and spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. In response, Nick said that he doesn't condone hate speech and his words were meant for the oppressive and racist infrastructure in America. Nick Cannon, best known for his marriage to Mariah Carey, also created the show Wild 'N Out. However, that show will be coming to an end after 15 seasons. You can tell that Nick is going to be blacklisted by Hollywood though after Viacom released this statement. While we support ongoing education and dialogue in the fight against bigotry, we are deeply troubled that Nick has failed to acknowledge or apologize for perpetuating anti-Semitism and we are terminating our relationship with him.